Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
The three gunas, satva, rajas, tamas. These three gunas gives you the identity. It works like an identity card. What are you? It's just that. This identity card contains knowledge, action, actor, intellect, steadfastness, happiness, renunciation. In this, we saw what is Satvic knowledge, Rajasic knowledge, Tamasic knowledge. Satvic knowledge keeps your personality alert and awake. That is Satvic knowledge. Rajasic knowledge is where the differences are more visible than unity. Tamasic knowledge is where you live with your gross perception only. This is Satvic knowledge, Rajasic knowledge, and Tamasic knowledge. Now, with the Satvic knowledge, you will be performing Satvic action. With Rajasic knowledge, you perform Rajasic action. Tamasic knowledge, Tamasic action. So therefore, we are studying what is this Satvic knowledge expression would be, how the Satvic knowledge will translate itself into action. Satvic action means action performed as obligatory duties. If you understand Satvic action, you understand what is Karma Yoga. So all that you discuss in the concept of Karma Yoga, that is Satvic action. So if you understand Satvic action, you would have understood what is Karma Yoga. Similarly, if you understand Satvic knowledge and Satvic buddhi, you would have understood Jnana Yoga. That's all. So like that that's how the connection we establish. So Satvic action, obligatory duties. Rajasic action, action performed with a lot of ego, kartritva buddhi. Tamasic action, action performed out of delusion. That is tamasic action. So far we saw. Then we got one idea. Sir, if Satvic action is performance of obligation, how do I know that I am performing obligatory action? What is the way for me to understand that yes, I am doing my obligation? That's what we stopped yesterday. This is where we stopped. This is a very, very important question for us to understand. So if you say that, I am going to be practicing Karma Yoga, or I am going to be following, do your duty, don't follow the fruit of action and all that you want to do. First thing is you have to do your duty. What it means to perform obligation. First point to remember, anytime you discuss about obligation, you got to keep this in background. You can perform obligation only if you are willing to sacrifice. This duties, you have to be sacrificial in nature. You have to have the idea of sacrifice, willingness to sacrifice. If you are not having the willingness to sacrifice, you cannot be practicing obligation at all. You can't do your duty. So whenever we say I am performing obligation, that means sacrifice. That is why in this Karma Yoga practice, we say yajna activities. Activities performed as yajna. Yajna means what? Sacrificial action. Don't take it as fire worship, ritual. It is a form of demonstrating your sacrificial nature. That's about it. But essentially, obligation means I am willing to sacrifice. That is called obligation. Doing what I have to do, not what I want to do. Doing what I ought to do is called obligation. Doing what I want to do is desired an action. That will fall under the category of rajasic action. What is this? That's what we see. We read in this poem, Laodomia. The Greek hero, Protesilaus. When the Greek was having a war with Trojan, the ship goes. The oracle had pronounced what? The Greek will win the battle, but the first person who lands his feet on the soil of Trojan will die. They will win, but the first fellow who keeps his feet will die. So the ship has come to the dock. Now they were all wondering who is going to be jumping first, because as the oracle said, the first person landing will die. So nobody wants to. As they were debating, what had happened, this fellow jumps in. And as the oracle pronounced, they won the battle and Protesilaus died in that battle. What's your obligation? His willingness to give his life, sacrifice. Like Tale of Two Cities, Sidney Carton, who gave up his life, says that sacrificial attitude should be there for a person to be performing obligation. Now we say, okay, if I perform that obligation, what will happen to me? Of course, obligation itself is one aspect. Then we saw that obligation you should be performing how? Without any attachment, without any excitement, and without any expectation. Only then it becomes a Satvic action. Just because you do your obligation doesn't mean it becomes Satvic. Obligation should be performed in this manner. That's why we are studying about obligation more rather than these three aspects. First thing is we need to establish, am I doing obligation? On what basis, sir? If I am performing obligation, what will be happening in me? With which, from the effect, we can know whether it is happening or not. Like, if you see smoke at a distance, you understand what there must be fire. Why? Because wherever there is fire, there will be smoke. In the olden days, not nowadays. Nowadays, in the kitchen, you switch on your gas stove, there is fire, there's no smoke. But what we understand is, wherever there is smoke, there will be fire. That's what the meaning. That doesn't mean wherever there is fire, there will be smoke. Converse need not. So we infer. Similarly, from the effect, we can infer the cause. So we need to think in terms of what is the effect of performance of obligation in me. If I am performing obligation, what should be happening to me, sir? The first thing that we see externally, demonstrative wise, what we see is the person will become more and more dynamic and efficient. The efficiency would increase. They'll be doing it better and better and better. Every day it will get better. Action gets better. Efficiency increases. One. And the person who is performing that will have this lot of motivation comes. There will be a lot of self-motivation. There is no necessity for the externally a person to be motivated or triggered or induced to activity. There will be a lot of initiative to action, not incentive. Very simple this is. See, there are a few things which will be very easy, very simple to understand. There will be initiative, not dependent on incentive. For him to do things. Now, best example for you to understand an obligation is how does a mother takes care of a child vis-a-vis the ayah you fix, right? The lady who comes to take care of the child, how does she take care? How does mother takes care? There is a difference, right? That is a difference we understand here. So keep that as an example. Of course, this is not a complete example, remember. That doesn't mean all mothers are all performing their obligation. No, that's not the case. Remember that. This is a compromised example so that you can start your analysis from there. That's all. That doesn't mean only all the mothers will immediately start thinking what? They are doing their duty. No, you are not doing it because of this. You are doing it only because of what? Of your attachment to the child. Remember that. If you are not having the attachment to the child, you will not do it. Because of the attachment only, you are able to do those things. So don't think that immediately that all the mothers having their taking care of their child. It is nature has given that to all mothers, not only for human mother, please. In nature, every animal also has that. So there is nothing that immediately don't come to the conclusion that mothers are all having Satvic action. No, I'm just giving an example to understand the difference. Motivation factor, that's all. For the motivation factor, you understand that. Limited application only, these examples have. Second one. Third one is very interesting. Third one is the performance of that action will not cause any mental agitation because obligations were essentially taken up by you. You voluntarily take up obligation. Obligations is not something which is predefined or given to you. If obligations were predefined and given to you, it will become a burden. So there will not be any agitations in performance of obligation. You will be enjoying the act of obligation. If you do an action as obligation, you will not only not get agitated, you will be enjoying that action. What is the hallmark of enjoyment of action? At least this much we should be able to understand. What is the proof that you are enjoying something? If you are enjoying the class, what is the proof? You should be waiting for 7 o'clock, isn't it? Then you are enjoying the class. Suppose if I say that the class 1 hour is not going to be enough, we are going to be extending the class for 1 hour 15 minutes. 1 hour I'm not able to cover the ideas. I'm leaving you halfway through, which I don't want to. So I'm extending that for another 15 minutes. When I say, if you are enjoying the class, what you should be doing? You should be really, wow, thanks, excellent, please. Right? Now, in the performance of duties, you should be, more you are doing means more there has to be enjoyment. More you are enjoying means you will be looking forward for more opportunities for you to do that. Isn't it? If you are doing the action, you are enjoying, that means what? You should be looking forward for more. Suppose any extra thing were to be given to you, if you have to do little more than what you are doing, you get irritated. That means what? Right through my life only I have to keep on doing, is it? Why don't you do more than me? Why are you asking me to do more than what I am doing? Like you ask in the office a fellow to stay back and do little extra work. What do they do? If you are going to pay me OT, I will pay overtime. If that overtime is not going to be there, what do you do? You resist, isn't it? There is a lot of resistance to action mentally. Physically, you may not. Physically, you may not have the courage to tell your boss, hey, get lost, man, I'm not going to do the work. That you may not have that physically to say, but mentally you can have a lot of resistance. So the signature aspect of obligation is this. If you are enjoying, obligations will help you to grow, evolve. If you are evolving, if you are getting more and more happiness out of that action, you should be looking forward to do that more and more. You should not get bored. I am doing the same thing. It's boring, man. That is why every Friday, Saturday evening, kitchen closed. I'm not going to do cooking anymore. Why? You got bored. Why? Cooking has become a burden for the lady. Same way, working in the office is a burden for the fellow who is working in the office. For a sportsman, playing that sport is a burden. That's why they say more and more we keep on playing, burnout. Not physically, mentally they get fatigued. What is it? From where it is coming, sir? That means if you are not looking forward to do more, you are not performing your obligation. Now, from where all this is externally, right? What is the subtle dimension of all this, sir? Is if you are performing your obligations, your desires and your attachment should get reduced. Your attachment should reduce, your desires should get reduced. And we say, I have been doing my duty for the last, from beginning to till now, Ishwaran, I have been doing my duty towards my family. Your attachment towards your family has decreased or your attachment to your family has increased? We ask only that one question. Has your attachment decreased or increased? Your desires have decreased or increased? Now, don't expect me to be explaining what is attachment, what is desire, those things are all right now, please. All these things you people should have covered, those ideas, right? Don't send me a quick question. Incidentally, I just want to make an announcement. If you have any clarification, you can send it across to me as a quick question. I'll see if I can explain. I may not be taking it up as question by quick question, but in the course, if I can address, I can try to address it. If I am not able to, let's see in the last. So if you have anything in between, you can. You cannot be asking in the class, but you can send it across through the WhatsApp or through email or whatever. You can do that, in fact. But don't ask me to explain, what is attachment. You should have completed those texts by now, in fact. If you want to understand attachment, go back to that book, The Holocaust of Attachment. Read that. There you will understand what is the meaning of attachment and all those things. Your attachments and your desires reduces. This is the cause. This is the primary effect of you performing obligation. The secondary effect is what, sir? Your efficiency increasing, your agitations reducing, you are enjoying. All these things are secondary, remember. The primary thing, when you say, I am performing an obligation, how will you know? I am doing my duty only. I am doing my duty means it should have reduced. Your desires should have reduced. Your obligations. Indication is what? Two things you can take as a classical indication. Reduced agitations and all that may not be. Two things I take. One, you will be looking forward for more of that. Not that you are looking forward to do it. No. You will look forward for more. Only then you can say you are doing obligation. Number one. Number two, this is my personal one. That's what he is giving as the quality also here. The performance of that action becomes effortless. There will not be any strain in that effort. Like when this, when I'm giving example, it look difficult to understand, So don't go by examples, please. When you see Rahul Dravid hitting a cover drive, how does it look? When he hits, it looks like, as though he's just tapping the ball. Just he touches it and it flies. What is it? How is it? It looks so effortless. Whereas you see a few batsmen, they take two circles. The ball will not go anywhere. And some of them, when they play, tennis also we see like that. When this class, players, when they play tennis, it looks so effortless. Till recently, first time I entered the tennis court. I have never seen tennis court live, actually. I saw first time tennis court actually in South Africa. And I'd been to somebody's house. I saw the tennis court first time, actual one. Only then I realized, my God, it's so big it is. Otherwise, my idea of tennis court is only television one. In the TV, I see, Boris Becker, takes a shot from this end and he goes to the other end, takes a stroke from that end, comes to this end, takes. I used to really wonder, what is the problem here? Why can't he just go there and take? It looks so big. You go there. All that you have to do is what? Just tap the ball to the other side. That's all you have to do. It goes everywhere. When they play, it looks like what? Effortless. You see that? That's not talent. I'm not talking about a talent here. Remember, this is where you misunderstand. This is what I was explaining yesterday. Whenever you try to understand something through example, this is the issue. You immediately think, oh, it is training, it is to do with the talent. Talent and training is what comes to you. No, it's not that, please. It is something more than that. Something more than that you have to see actually, like I was giving this case. You can't understand tennis by looking at the TV. You have to go actually there and see the court. When you see the court only, you understand what is tennis. Otherwise, we don't really understand what is tennis. Similarly, you have to see people performing their actions effortless. The ease with which they live their life. So obligations when you are performing, Satvic action means what, sir? Two things you remember. Satvic action means obligation. Obligation means what? Volunteer to take up. I take it upon myself. 1. 2. Sacrificial. Second aspect. Third aspect. There is an effect. What is the effect, sir? Primary effect, secondary effect. Primary effect, desires reduce. Secondary effect, efficiency increases, agitation reduces, and I look forward for more of it. Then the performance of action becomes effortless. These are the four aspects you got to remember as a secondary effect. Primary effect is this. Okay, now we go to the next idea. Next idea is, next question we have to answer is, sir, if I have to fix my obligation, on what basis I will fix my obligation? I have to, if I have a performed obligation or not, these are the indication. Correct. Now the question is, how am I to know what is my obligation before I do the action? After the performance with these effects, I can understand. Before the performance, how am I to understand? There we understand obligations were fixed at 3 stages. There are 3 layers through which we understand obligation. The outermost of that is your obligations were fixed based on the role that you play in life. What is your role? See, right now, what are you? Right now, you are a student. Right. Right now, what am I? Right now, I am a teacher. Right. That's the role. Now, what should be the duties and the obligations of a teacher? Duty of a teacher is different and the duty of a student is different. Duty of the teacher is what? He should study before the class. Duty of the student is what? Should study after the class. Imagine I am studying after the class and you are studying before the class. Won't work, you see. What I am supposed to do? I am supposed to study before the class, come and teach. Same way, what are you supposed to do as student? Then comes the next question. Now then comes the next role. Then what happens? I am a husband. I am father. I am son. I am also student. I am a citizen. I am. So depending upon the role that you are playing, we can define the duties. As a citizen, what is your obligation? Citizen of a country, what are you obligated? What is your duty? This is one way of defining duty. But then there is a problem in that. Is this an ideal way of fixing duties? Difficulty is there in this. There are 2 difficulties in that. First difficulty here is this role-based defining duty is defined by whom? Defined by the external agencies. External agency, we give it one name: society, world around. The society defines what? Isn't it? A duty of a wife 100 years back is different from the duties that we feel today a wife should be, isn't it? About 100 years back, 200 years back, what is the duty of a wife? Some of us may be wishing also like that, you know. when the husband comes back from home, he goes out and comes back. What does a wife do? He'll wash his feet, this one and all that. Today what? He'll give a kick to you. No, it doesn't work like that today. You see, now those duties looks to you and me today as what? You see that? The problem is two there. One is, since it is fixed by external agencies, I always feel I am a victim of that. I am forced to do it, which defies the very basic rule of obligation, because we saw obligation as what? That which I take it upon myself. Isn't it? Now, if depending on the role I have to be deciding duty means, do I decide or the thing called society decides? How much ever is the fictitious idea and all that? Okay, there's another angle to look at it. There is no such thing called society. That's a different thing. That is from a higher angle. But as far as we are concerned, I say, as a student, what is my duty? I have to study. Who decided that? That is why this duty had become what, sir? It says the duty has become a Frankenstein. It has started, we start feeling the burden of it. We started feeling duty is more of a burden today, pain. We drag our feet to wiser because there is no freedom. I don't get that freedom to decide what to do. This is first stage. Remember this, when I say first stage, you are qualified to graduate to the second stage after you have followed the first stage. You can't be breaking the first and go to the second stage. Remember that. You can't, bypass second, primary education and go to secondary education. That is not possible. Easiest, simplest way to define is through that. That's where all the smritis, shastras and all that, where they say do's and don'ts. You do these things, don't do these things. Full stop. There is no questions asked. There is we don't have any freedom to take a call. You have to do it. You should not do it. Full stop. This do's and don'ts and maxims and mandates were given to us from an external agency. Why? Because you are playing that particular role. If you are not playing that particular role, that will not be fitted for you. That is not applicable for you. So once you take up that role, then you have to do these things. Then what happens, sir? A person graduates. Next level he goes. After you follow that, you get graduated to the next level. Next level is where we don't define duties based on just the role that you are playing. Just because you are a student, that doesn't mean you have to study. Not necessarily. Then we ask that fellow, what do you desire? What is your desire? I want to become a sportsman. Therefore, what are you supposed to do now? Go and play in the ground. You don't have to be sitting and reading now. Now you don't have to. Suppose if that fellow says, no, I wanted to do MBA. I want to join IIM, IIT. If a fellow says, I want to study in IIM, IIT, then what he has to do? Then he can't go to the playground and start playing there for 10 hours, practicing. Maybe for half an hour he can go and just to relax to play and come back. But he can't be sitting in the ground. He can't be in the nets practicing. That's where we say, Tendulkar can afford to fail in 10th standard. There is no problem. We will never consider him as a failure. No. That doesn't mean, then what is the basis? We say duty is defined by your desires. What you desire. Therefore, duty is defined as what, sir? What you have to do is because of what you have that desire. Since you have that desire, you better do it. So therefore, what is secondary level of duty, sir? The secondary understanding of duty is where you say duty is the penalty that I have to pay for the desire that I have entertained. Now, why do you have to pay that, sir? It is a penalty. So when you pay that penalty, what happens? Your sin gets squared off, isn't it? Same way, Vedanta says, you perform this duty, what will happen? It squares off the desires. The desires gets reduced. So choose this. You have to do it. Why? Because of your desire. It is far, far better than the role-based analysis of duty. Fixation based on the role. No, that's not the ideal method. Better way is to fix it based on your desire. Then we say, the scriptures identify that and say, hey, there is a problem with the desires. There are two problems with the desires you will find always. If you are going to be deciding based on your desires then. What are the problems, sir? Number one, your desires keeps changing, no? Isn't it? What you liked about 10 years back is not your liking today. Isn't it? When I stretch it for 10 years, you understand. When I bring it to yesterday, today, there is a lot of difference. We can't recognize it, but we have to understand it does happen to all of us. The desires are not fixed. It is variable. The desires keeps on changing. Now, if the desires keeps on changing, imagine that if I have to be deciding my obligations based on that variable factor, and that varies so much, obligations will not have any consistency. Right? Difficulty is there. Number one. On top of that, you have to add the second factor also. You have to, emboss this on that desire. Another nature of desire is what, sir? Desire is always conflicting and contradicting in nature. You can never have desires which are all congruent in nature. That's impossible. Desires can never be congruent. It is always, the definition of desire is that. Why? Because desire is essentially what? Indiscriminate thought flow. Indiscriminate thinking. Indiscrimination is called a desire. Now, how can you have a consistent, non-conflicting indiscrimination? It's impossible. Indiscrimination means there is no consistency in that. That's the meaning of it. Now, if I am going to be deciding my duties based on that, then what will happen, sir? Always one will conflict with the other. I want to do this, at the same time I want to do that also. Then what, sir? Conflict comes. If I give example, most of us will relate to. I want to please my mother, also my wife. Possible? Only men will understand that. This example is applicable only for men. It's impossible. You can never find where you can. That's what happens, isn't it? That mother, she thinks what? As soon as this guy got married, suddenly this lady changed him completely. Thinks. In 2 months, changed. Why? Earlier, she has to wait for this fellow to come till 12 o'clock. He'll never come. He won't even inform her. And he'll come at 12:30 and say, what? I have had my dinner. Now what is he doing? 9:30 he is calling and says what? I am not coming for dinner. What happens to mother now? She thinks, my God, 20 years this fellow has never told me. In 2 months he is calling and informing her. Now who is important for you? In desires, which desire you will say is important to you now? Conflicting things comes into picture. Therefore, what, sir? That is also not the foolproof method of fixing your obligation, deciding your duty. We know of only two ways of doing it. Externally, the society decides what are you supposed to do. Fix that. Or you fix it based on what you desire. Desire means this problem comes as a result of which your actions also will be cancelling. One action will cancel the other action out. So third option is what, sir, is where Vedanta comes and says, oh no, obligations should be based on your goal in life. What is your goal in life? Define that first. Then all that you are supposed to be doing to attain that goal becomes obligation. What is the purpose? Goal means what is the purpose of your life? And as far as the scriptures was concerned, they will say there is only one purpose you have got. We have no other purpose. Whether you understand or not, whether you agree or not, scriptures don't care. Vedanta doesn't care about that. It says there is only one purpose you have for this life. That is to realize the self, to evolve. Evolution alone is the reality of life. If you refuse to evolve, nature will penalize you. You have to evolve by default. If you do it consciously, that is what obligation becomes. Now you go back to all the ideas. Then everything will fit in. Once you fix the goal of your life and take up things for that sake of realization, for that sake of evolution, then you are performing your obligations. Then what will happen, sir? Invariably, what will come and disturb your performance of obligation is your likes and dislikes. In likes and dislikes, the problem will be more with reference to the like aspect of mind than dislike aspect of mind. Dislike aspect also it is easy to overcome. The like is a problem. For example, you have to study the scriptures. There is no option you have. You better learn. You better study. There is no problem for us. I have to, okay, I'll do it, man. The problem is you start liking the study of scriptures, let's say. What happens? The problem will be you will be assuming within yourself that you are doing your duty, obligation. But it is the mind which is taking over the entire action of studying, learning. See, you will study, not that you are not going to study. You are studying, you are learning, you are doing all that. But the problem is the mind's liking once you develop for this obligation, because obligation gives you all that you want in life, isn't it? You are becoming more efficient, you are becoming more peaceful, and you are growing. All that good things are all produced by this effort. So obviously, over a period of time, what can happen to you, sir? You can start developing a liking for it. The difficulty of Satvic action is only this part. How are you to clip the liking to be developed over a period of time for your action? That's the essential question you have to ask. How do you do that, sir? That's where the goal becomes very essential. That's where this goal of realization becomes important. Otherwise, this goal of realization is not such a big thing. The first two dimensions is more than enough for us to define obligation. The goal becomes essential only here. The goal of that to the goal of realization alone, because only in that goal of realization there is no possibility of developing a desire. You can never have a desire for realization. That's impossible. Verbally possible. Desire for realization. Sentence wise possible. There is no error in the sentence also. But can you actually have it? Like, sentence wise, is there any mistake in this? Flowers in this sky. Huh? Horns of a man. Sentence wise, there is no problem. But can you actually create it? You can't create. Similarly, you cannot have a desire for realization. That's impossible. Why that impossible? How that impossible and all you cover. You think it. I'll just give you the hint. Desire means what, sir? Means my thoughts run towards the world. Realization doesn't belong to the world. Full stop. Realization is what? To go beyond the world. Desire means acquiring things and enjoying. That is called a desire. Now, there is no way that you can acquire self-realization and enjoy self-realization. That is not possible. Therefore, desire is an impossibility when it comes to the idea of realization. So, whenever you perform an action directing and dedicating it for self-realization, you can avoid all the problems of it. And it fits in perfectly to the definition of obligation. And all the effects of obligation will start coming forth. Therefore, what is the ideal way to fix obligation, sir? Ideal way to understand obligation is any action that I perform dedicating to evolution or realization. Spiritual growth. What we mean is spiritual growth. In our terminology, we keep using the word self-realization or God realization. Now, each one we use one terminology. For moksha, we may use. For nirvana, we can use. This one we can use any way you want. That is your own convenience. I'm just using that word self-realization. Action dedicated towards self-realization. So every time you are performing that action, you have to ask yourself that question. Yes, I am attending the class. Why are you attending the class? For what? In what way this action is going to be helping you to self-realization? Establish a link between the action that you are performing to the goal of evolution. If you can establish the link and then perform, only then that action becomes obligation. Satvic action. I repeat. Some of you may wonder, you're going too fast or too confusing. Satvic action demands these three things. There has to be a goal, and I perform the action and establish a link between the two. I exercise. For what I am exercising? I need to establish the link between me exercising to self-realization. I eat, I sleep, I talk, I relate, I don't relate. I get angry. I don't get angry. I feel happy. I don't feel this. I do whatever I do and whatever I do not do. All that is directed or linked to the goal. Here comes a difficulty for us. First difficulty we will face is, genuine one will happen, is in the beginning, it is very difficult for us to establish a link. It will look, unconnected. What is a connection? Like, that's why many students ask this question: why should we study mathematics? Isn't it? In what way studying integration, differentiation, and all that has helped me in my life? I have never used it in my life. Therefore, what we should do? I'm going to be doing only WhatsApp, this. So let me learn only that. Why should I study this? Why should I study geography? Why should I? There is no direct link at all. There's no direct connection between what you are going to do in life versus black sheep, how you anyway. What is a link? What is the connection between that and you are going to be living your life? There's no link. Therefore, what are you going to do? I'm not going to study. Sir, I have to run. For me to run, what is a necessity for me to be smoking or not smoking, sir? Because initially, I will be able to continue to drink, smoke, still win the gold medals. I still remember in my school, I had one fellow, Gilbert. Oh, fantastic sportsman. Same way we had another fellow called Natraj. These two guys, I'll never forget them. I am a fan of Gilbert and my other friends are fans of, Natraj. These two fellows were always, contesting in our school. This fellow. This Natraj used to, be very, very disciplined. This Gilbert is not like that. The guy is, chill fellow he is. He'll do whatever he wants. But once he gets onto the field, now he puts on his spikes, then he's a different guy. He scores, he wins. But then beyond a point, what happens? Up to the school level, inter-school competitions he can win. The moment it comes to national and international level, what happens? Olympics, what happens? Now, he can't go up to that height. Why he can't go up to that height, sir? Certain unconnected things are required for you to do it. He can't say all that I'm going to do is only running. No. For that, what is a connection? I'm able to succeed in these things. So therefore, I'm not going to do. No, it will not work. Establishing the link initially will look impossible, impractical. Many a times it will appear mechanical, unconnected. For us to establish that link, initial mechanicalism we have to pass through. Do it, we say. Do it mechanically. Don't ask for the logic of it. If you have to ask for the logic of it, I will ask you the basic question. Who told you A should be written like this? All of us right now, A, B, C, D. Why after A, B? After B, C? Who decided B should be written like that? What is the logic? We don't ask all that, isn't it? We take it for granted what? A, this, B, this, C, this. After A, B, after B, C. You take it for granted. You don't. You start with that first. After studying all those things, after you come to the level of a PhD, in phonetics, when you are doing a PhD, there you study those things. Only then you start understanding what is this. Why after 1, 2? After 2, 3? Why? You study those things later. But initially, what you have to do, sir? Just do it. Same way, whether it makes sense or not, don't worry about all that. Initially, what are you supposed to do, sir? Just do the action. Perform that. Therefore, what we should do initially, before you commence any action, what do we do, sir? We keep on reminding. That's why every chanting, every mantra we do, anything we do, first thing they do is what, sir? Om, they say. Why that Om, Om, Om for everything? It's a reminder of what? Of the goal. The goal of the Brahman, the idea of God, idea of realization, idea of effort, final goal of mission. To remind yourself, they chant Om. Same way here. That's what they practically brought in. So what are you supposed to do, sir? Establish the link between what you are doing. This. Invariably, your desires, your attachments, your likes and dislikes will come and disturb. So don't worry about it. And in that effort, don't think in terms of whether the unit action that I'm performing is a very big one or a small one. In obligations, there is no big and small. Everything remains same equation. In obligation wise, if you take, in obligations, all things are equal. It is not that the person who is contributing more is bigger and the small person is smaller. There's no such thing. Everybody will be, every action will be treated, every effort will be treated with equal valuation only. Everybody gets only one vote. Doesn't matter how big you are and how small you are. How much ever tax you pay, you can't say I am paying that much of tax, therefore I should be given 10 votes. There's no such thing. Everybody, whether you pay tax or you are not paying tax, even if you are evading tax, they will put you. They will ask you to pay tax and they'll give you all those things. But still what? You can pay one vote. Same way here. One, all things are equal here. In obligations, what is it, sir? This. You'll say, Ishwaran, by the time we decide all these things, my God, it is too. First of all, I have to fix the goal of realization. I have to understand that goal of realization. Then I have to establish, hey, you are asking me to do too much, man. For which they say, they give you a stopgap arrangement. Till you are able to fix a goal, what are you going to do? You can't go back to the previous 2 points. You can't say, till then can I work on the role, or till then can I work on my desire. That's a risk. You cannot do that. You have already rejected that. Having rejected the 2 only, we have started searching for the 3rd one. Now we can't go back to that which we have rejected. Oh, this is difficult, therefore I do that. That is tamasic. You see, we can't do that. So what to do then, sir? The scriptures give these masters are superb there. No? They give us a option. They say, but remember, this is only a stopgap arrangement. This will be valid and it will work if you are working on the goal of establishing the goal of realization. Okay, I'm not yet inspired by the goal of realization. It is not possible initially. Yes, still I am struggling, Ishwaran. I'm trying to work on it, but it will take some time. Till then, what to do? They said, till then, you decide your obligations based on wherever you are indebted. Wherever you have received a benefit, you have to pay back. But remember, this should be applied only by a person who is attempting to build that goal, attempting to establish a link. Even though he is attempting, he is struggling, he is failing in that, but he is not giving it up. He's still climbing. Like, I don't know whether you have seen the ants, trying to climb the wall. Have you seen? a unit ant, sometimes it'll climb the wall. It'll go. It will come up to a height. It cannot go beyond a point. It will fall down. After falling, what it does, sir? Again, it will start climbing only. It will not say, I am not going to climb. That effort, it will continue. Till you succeed in that part, till that becomes normal to you, what are you supposed to do, sir? They say, work with reference to the areas of your receipt. Wherever you have received, you pay back. But remember, without this, if you work on it, it will become business, transactional. Without this goal of realization, if you are going to be taking only the receipt, then you will become a transactional personality. Everything you will start viewing in terms of this. Like I used to see, in Tamil Nadu, in the weddings, when we go in the house, to a wedding, always there will be a person sitting in the corner, the wedding. A fellow will be making a note. This name, Kupuswami, 101 rupees. Ramaswamy, 501 rupees. Krishna Swami, 51 rupees. They make a note. And every house they will retain that notebook. And every time, why they retain that notebook, sir? For what? Hey, if wedding happens in their house, what we should do? We should also pay equally to that. So we keep record of that. This is transactional, remember. But it's a very good idea which will give far better sense of fitting in all the dimensions of obligation. It fits in. It fits beautifully. But only problem with that deciding obligation based on this is, if you are not working on the goal of realization, if you take only this part, then you will become very, very transactional in life. Everything you will start viewing from what I have done, what you have done. What I have done, what you have done. That's what every husband and wife fight. Here you go. What is it? What have you done? What I have done. How much you have done for this family? How much I have done for this? What I have done for you? What you have done for me? Why this is this? But initially, when you are working, you always say what? I have received the benefit, so I have to pay back. I have received the benefit, so I have to pay back. I have received the benefit to pay back. Don't get too involved with this facet, please. This is only a stopgap. It's like a walker. Till you can regain that strength to your fractured legs, use the walker. But every time you are using the walker, you have to remember what? I am supposed to drop it and walk one day. Rest of your life, if you are going to be using the walker, that means crippled. That's not the right way of working. So how do you decipher Satvic actions? First thing is, you fix you are doing obligatory action first. Then analyze everything. Without you deciding whether you are doing the obligation or not, to go and working with reference to my Satvic action, Rajasic action, Tamasic action, you will never be able to decipher. So first requirement is Satvic action means performance of obligation. Rajasic action, what, sir? Desired in action. Kamya karma. That is this. Tamasic action, what, sir? Reckless. Reckless action. Irresponsible action is called a tamasic action. The Satvic action, obligation. Without the ego, without attachment, without all this. Then you get the idea. Without attachment to the fruit of action, without that sense of egoism in performance, you understand that I am just a spoke in the wheel. All that comes next step. But in which field you have to practice all these things, sir? In the field of your obligation, you have to practice it. How do you know you are performing obligation, and how are you to decipher your obligation? That is what we have seen today. Sattvic action itself has taken so much of time. Let's see how much we can go faster with reference to, Rajasic. We are yet to see Rajasic action and yet to see Tamasic action. Right? So anyway, but this is the crux of Sattvic action. Sattvic action crux is deciding your obligation first. First, think on that. Decipher that. Detect the whole thing first. Understand them in totality. Then we can move on to the other aspects. Thank you.